The message arrived on a Tuesday. The sky above NASA's Deep Space Communication Complex near Phoenix was clear blue. Inside the main building, Senior Communications Officer Alan Porter yawned and reached for his coffee mug. It was his third cup, today. Night shifts always left him tired, but someone had to watch the deep space monitors. Another boring day listening to the stars, he mumbled to himself. As he lifted the mug to his lips, his elbow knocked against a stack of papers. He jerked to save them, and hot coffee splashed across his keyboard. Damn it. Alan grabbed tissues and started mopping up the mess. That's when he heard it. A high-pitched beeping from his computer. The signal detection program was flashing red. At first, he thought the coffee had damaged something. But as he checked the readings, his heart began to race. This was no malfunction. The computer had picked up a signal from deep space beyond Neptune. And it wasn't random. "Hey Rick, come look at this," Alan called to his coworker. "I think we've got something real here." Rick hurried over, eyes widening as he saw the pattern on the screen. That's not natural. Those are prime numbers, repeating in sequence." Alan nodded, his coffee mess forgotten. "Someone, or something, is sending this message deliberately." Within 30 minutes, the complex's director arrived, followed quickly by senior scientists. By nightfall, NASA headquarters was buzzing with activity. By morning, the President of the United States was being briefed in the Oval Office. "And we're certain this isn't some kind of hoax?" President Claire Wilson asked, looking at the data presented to her. "Absolutely certain, Madam President," replied Dr. Howard Banks, NASA's director. "We've confirmed the signal's origin. It's coming from a point beyond Neptune's orbit, and it's moving. Whatever's sending this message is heading toward our solar system." The President's face remained calm, but her fingers tightened around her pen. "What are our options?" "We need to assemble our best minds to decode this message," Dr. Banks said, "and we need to prepare for all possibilities." 5 days later, the United Nations Security Council held an emergency closed-door session. Representatives from all major space-capable nations sat around the table, faces tense. "The signal continues," the UN Secretary-General informed them, "and our best analysis suggests it contains mathematical formulas that could be the key to decoding an alien language." Dr. Susan Miller walked into the room then. At 42, she was NASA's top xenolinguist, an expert in theoretical alien communication. Her work had been mostly theoretical until now. "Ladies and gentlemen," she said, placing her tablet on the table, "we've made our first breakthrough. The signal contains repeating patterns that we believe are meant to establish basic communication concepts, numbers, physical constants, and what appear to be simple pictorial representations." "How long until full decoding?" asked the Russian representative. "That depends on how complex their full message is," Susan replied. "But we've assembled a global team of linguists, mathematicians, and computer scientists. We're working around the clock." The next 3 weeks were a blur of activity. The world's most powerful supercomputers ran decoding algorithms day and night. Linguists developed new theories of language structure. Mathematicians looked for patterns that might reveal meaning. And all the while, military forces worldwide quietly prepared. Satellite systems were redirected. Weapons platforms were tested. Naval fleets repositioned. In a small town called Lakeside, Nebraska, Navy Commander Diane Powell was fishing at the local lake when her secure phone buzzed. She answered, listened silently for a minute, then packed up her gear. "Everything okay, Diane?" her neighbor called from his boat nearby. "Just work," she replied with a casual wave. "Probably be gone a few days." In truth, she knew it would be much longer. As one of only 12 military officers with combined experience in advanced space operations and diplomatic crisis management, she had been expecting this call. 6 hours later, her military transport landed at the Pentagon. She was escorted directly to a new underground facility labeled simply FCR, First Contact Response. General Frank Simmons, a man with steel-gray hair and a reputation for calm under pressure, met her at the door. "Commander Powell," he said, shaking her hand firmly. "Thank you for coming quickly. I've been briefed on the basics, sir. Diane replied as they walked through security checkpoints. Alien signal, potential first contact. The general nodded. What your brief didn't include is that we cracked the code this morning. Diane stopped walking. We decoded their message? Dr. Miller and her team did, he confirmed. It's why you're here now. They entered a large room filled with screens, computers, and busy personnel. In the center stood Dr. Susan Miller, explaining something to a group of officials. They call themselves the Viridian Collective, Susan was saying. According to their message, they've been observing Earth for at least 60 years. They've decided, we've reached what they call threshold technological maturity for formal contact. Admiral Jeff Carter, recently appointed commander of the U.S. Space Force, crossed his arms. And their intentions? They say they wish to establish friendly relations, Susan replied. They're sending what they describe as a diplomatic vessel. Estimated arrival time, 6 Earth months from now. 6 months isn't much time to prepare for meeting an alien species, Admiral Carter said. General Simmons nodded toward Diane. That's why Commander Powell is here. Her mission is to help prepare humanity for every possible scenario, from peaceful exchange to the worst case, Diane finished for him. This is bigger than any one nation, the general told her quietly. But make no mistake, Commander Powell, we're preparing for every possibility. Later that night in her new quarters at the FCR facility, Diane looked at a photo of Earth taken from space. Soon, visitors from beyond the stars would see this same blue planet, her home. I hope you come in peace, she whispered to the unseen aliens. But if you don't, you'll find we're not as helpless as we might appear. The next morning, the president addressed the world. Humanity had received its first message from an alien civilization. The Viridians were coming. The UNS Harmony was the most advanced ship humans had ever built for space travel. It gleamed silver under the distant sun as Diane boarded with the rest of the crew. 40 people in total, diplomats, scientists, and a small security team, would make humanity's first official contact with an alien species. Welcome aboard, Commander Powell. Captain Steve Martinez greeted her at the airlock. Your quarters are on Deck 3. We launch in 2 hours. Diane nodded and made her way through the ship's bright corridors. Unlike military vessels she had served on, the Harmony was designed to be welcoming. Large viewing windows, comfortable meeting rooms, and even a small garden section where plants grew under special lights. All for show, she thought to herself. To make a good first impression. What the public broadcast didn't mention was that most of the plants were carefully chosen for their medicinal properties, or that hidden within the ship's elegant design were emergency escape pods and a sophisticated sensor array that could detect weapons and energy buildups. The ship also carried something even more secret, a quantum communication device that would allow instant contact with Earth regardless of distance. The technology was so new that even most governments didn't know it existed. In her quarters, Diane stored her few belongings and checked her personal sidearm, a specially designed non-lethal weapon that could work in zero gravity. Regulations said the security team could carry defensive weapons only. She hoped they wouldn't be needed. 2 hours later, the Harmony detached from Earth's orbital dock and began its journey toward Jupiter. The trip would take 3 weeks using the ship's ion drives, the fastest publicly known propulsion system humanity had developed. During those 3 weeks, Diane got to know the diplomatic team. Ambassador Maria Reyes, a calm woman with decades of international experience, led the group. Dr. Susan Miller was there too, along with representatives from 15 countries. Our main goal is establishing peaceful communication, Ambassador Reyes told them during one briefing. We offer friendship and knowledge exchange, but make no binding agreements without Earth's approval. Diane noticed what wasn't being said. They were to learn as much as possible about Viridian technology and intentions, while revealing as little as possible about Earth's true capabilities. Behind the scenes, Diane stayed in secret contact with the military vessels hidden throughout the solar system. The USS Constitution, commanded by Captain Greg Howard, led the American forces. Similar ships from other nations waited silently, engines cold to avoid detection. All quiet on our end, Captain Howard reported during one secure call. We'll be watching when you make contact. As the Harmony approached Jupiter's orbit, the crew grew tense. The Viridians had been sending regular messages but still refused to transmit any images of themselves or their ships. It's a cultural taboo, Susan explained during a final briefing. They believe showing their physical form before meeting would be presumptuous. Diane wasn't convinced. Or they don't want us preparing specific countermeasures. Susan sighed. Not everything is a military strategy, Commander. In my experience, Diane replied quietly, it's better to be cautious and wrong than trusting and dead. The day of arrival came. Jupiter filled the viewing windows, a massive swirl of orange and white clouds with the famous red spot visible near the edge. The Harmony took position at the arranged coordinates and waited. Anything on sensors? Ambassador Reyes asked the science officer. Nothing yet, he replied, eyes fixed on his screens. Wait, there's some kind of energy reading forming about 10,000 kilometers ahead. Everyone watched as space itself seemed to ripple and bend. A circular distortion appeared, growing larger until it stabilized at about 500 meters across. From within this strange portal, a ship emerged. Diane's breath caught in her throat. The alien vessel was enormous, at least 2 kilometers long from end to end. Shaped like an elongated diamond with pulsing blue lights along its surface, it moved with impossible grace for something so large. My God, someone whispered on the bridge. The ship came to a stop about 3 kilometers from the Harmony. Up close, they could see strange patterns etched into its metallic skin and what looked like crystalline structures at various points. Harmony, this is Captain Martinez. We've made visual contact with the Viridian vessel. Transmitting images now. His voice was steady, but Diane could see the tension in his shoulders. The Viridian ship sent its first direct message. Greetings, people of Earth. We are honored to meet you. Please approach to docking distance. Ambassador Reyes nodded to the captain. Take us in slowly. As the Harmony moved forward, Diane activated her secure communicator. Constitution, this is Powell. Be advised, the Viridian ship is significantly larger than our estimates. At least 2 kilometers in length with unknown capabilities. Roger that, came Captain Howard's reply. We're getting the feed. That thing's impressive. They want us impressed, Diane said. It's a show of technological superiority. The Harmony stopped 500 meters from the alien vessel. Close-up cameras showed more details. The ship had no visible weapons, but there were ports or hatches that could conceivably hide them. The hull material seemed to shimmer slightly as if it wasn't entirely solid. We are sending docking instructions, the Viridian message continued. We have prepared an environmental chamber suitable for human biology. Dr. Miller reviewed the instructions with the science team. The atmosphere mix looks safe. They've created a room with Earth normal pressure, temperature, and oxygen levels. Any signs of threats? Diane asked the security chief. Nothing obvious, he replied. But we can only scan the outer sections of their ship. The interior is shielded somehow. Ambassador Reyes gathered the contact team, herself, Dr. Miller, 2 other diplomats, and Diane as security lead. Remember your training. Be respectful but cautious. This is the most important meeting in human history. As the Harmony docked with the massive alien ship, a strange circular door opened on the Viridian vessel. Beyond it was a long, curved corridor lit with soft blue light. Welcome to the emissary of the Viridian Collective, came the alien message. Please proceed to the meeting chamber. Diane checked her equipment one last time. The small camera hidden in her uniform would transmit everything back to the Harmony. From there, the quantum communicator would relay it instantly to Earth and to the hidden warships watching from afar. Ready? Ambassador Reyes asked. Everyone nodded. They stepped through the doorway into alien territory. On the bridge of the Constitution, hiding behind one of Mars's small moons, Captain Howard watched the feed from Diane's camera with his heart pounding. The fate of humanity might well depend on what happened next. The passage through the alien corridor felt endless. Diane walked slightly ahead of Ambassador Reyes, all her senses on high alert. The walls around them had a strange texture, halfway between metal and crystal, and seemed to glow with a faint inner light. "The air smells different," one of the diplomats whispered. "Clean, but not like anything on Earth." After about 2 minutes of walking, they reached a large circular room. The ceiling arched high above them, covered in what looked like a moving star map. The floor was perfectly smooth and slightly warm under their feet. In the center of the room stood 3 tall structures. At first, Diane thought they were some kind of pillars or statues. Then they moved. The Viridians were not what anyone had expected. Each stood about 8 feet tall, with bodies that resembled elongated diamonds, similar to their ship's design. They had no visible heads, but their upper sections contained clusters of small, faceted crystals that glowed with different colors. Multiple thin limbs extended from their middle sections, each ending in what looked like delicate crystal tools. "Greetings, representatives of Earth," came a voice that seemed to fill the room without having a clear source. "We welcome you to our vessel." Ambassador Reyes stepped forward. "On behalf of all humans, we thank you for this historic meeting. We come in peace and friendship." "Your peaceful intentions are noted and appreciated," replied the Viridian voice. "We are the first contact delegation of the Viridian Collective. I am Coordinator Zenith. These are Science Observer Lumina and Cultural Interpreter Prism." As each was named, the crystals on their upper sections pulsed brighter. Dr. Miller couldn't contain her scientific curiosity. "Your communication in our language is remarkable. How are you translating so accurately?" The one called Lumina shifted slightly, crystal clusters flashing. "We have studied your broadcasts for many years. Your language patterns are complex but decipherable. We use a quantum translation field to process and generate speech." For the next hour, the meeting proceeded with surprising smoothness. The Viridians asked about Earth's history, political structures, and scientific understanding. The human delegation, in turn, learned more about the Viridian Collective, a vast network of star systems bound together by shared knowledge and resources. "Our species evolved in a methane-rich environment," Zenith explained. "Our bodies are silicon-based rather than carbon-based like yours. We absorb energy directly from radiation sources and process information through crystalline neural networks." "Fascinating," Dr. Miller replied. "That explains your ship design. The external structures must help with energy collection." "Correct," Lumina confirmed. "You are observant for a young species." Throughout the conversation, Diane watched carefully, noting how the aliens moved, how they communicated with each other through brief flashes of light between their crystal clusters, and most importantly, how they reacted to certain questions. When Ambassador Reyes casually asked about their defense capabilities, all 3 Viridians went completely still for several seconds before Zenith answered vaguely about protective measures appropriate to interstellar travel. When the ambassador inquired about the total size of Viridian territory, their crystal clusters dimmed noticeably before they provided an answer that somehow avoided giving specific numbers. "They're hiding something," Diane thought. She glanced at the ambassador, who gave a slight nod. She had noticed too. After the initial meeting, the Viridians invited the humans to view a presentation about their civilization. One entire wall of the chamber transformed into a 3-dimensional display showing stunning images of Viridian worlds, crystal cities floating in gas giants, vast orbital structures harnessing the energy of stars, and fleets of diamond-shaped ships moving between worlds. "The Viridian Collective spans 17 star systems," Zenith explained. "We have brought peace, stability, and technological advancement to all worlds under our protection." Diane caught the specific wording. "Under our protection, not in our alliance, or in our federation." It suggested a hierarchical relationship rather than one of equals. "And how do new worlds join the collective?" she asked directly. The 3 Viridians exchanged quick light patterns before Prism answered. "When we discover civilizations approaching technological maturity, we offer guidance and protection. The galaxy contains many dangers for developing species." "So Earth would be considered a developing species?" Ambassador Reyes asked. By our standards, yes, Zenith said. Your achievements are impressive for your age, but there is much you have yet to discover. The meeting continued for another hour before the human delegation returned to the Harmony. Once they were safely back aboard their own ship, Diane immediately contacted the hidden military vessels. They're impressive, she reported to Captain Howard. Advanced technology, seemingly peaceful, but there's something they're not telling us. They repeatedly referred to other civilizations under their protection and avoided questions about their military capabilities. Noted, Howard replied. We're maintaining position and staying dark. The Chinese and European vessels report the same. Over the next 3 days, more meetings took place. The Viridians offered gifts, medical knowledge that could cure several major diseases, more efficient energy production methods, and improved agricultural techniques. But each gift came with Viridian advisors to help implement the technology properly. During a private dinner on the Harmony, Ambassador Reyes shared her concerns with the senior staff. They're establishing a pattern of dependency, she said, quietly. Impressive gifts that require their ongoing involvement to maintain. Dr. Miller nodded. Classic soft power strategy. Make yourself indispensable before revealing your true intentions. The question is, Diane added, what are those intentions? Their answer came during the 4th day of meetings. Coordinator Zenith requested a special session with only Ambassador Reyes, Dr. Miller, and Diane present. We have been authorized by the collective leadership to make you a formal offer, Zenith announced. The crystal clusters on its upper section pulsed with bright blues and greens. Earth would be granted protected associate status within the Viridian Collective. What exactly does that entail? Ambassador Reyes asked carefully. You would receive full access to Viridian technology, medical, energy, transportation, even limited space folding capabilities. In exchange, Earth would accept Viridian guidance on its development and expansion plans. Guidance? Diane questioned. Oversight from Viridian advisors to ensure proper implementation and use of advanced technologies, Zenith clarified. For your protection, certain dangerous research paths would be restricted. The message was clear beneath the diplomatic language. Earth would gain technology, but lose independence. The Viridians would decide what humans could and couldn't develop on their own. As they returned to the Harmony once more, Diane knew the real negotiations were about to begin, and she wasn't sure the Viridians would take no for an answer. Back on Earth, the debate raged. Some argued for accepting the Viridians' offer, a guaranteed path to advancement under alien protection. Others saw it as thinly veiled colonization. After 2 weeks of negotiations, the UN Security Council made its decision. Earth would remain independent but would welcome cultural and limited technological exchange as equals. The Viridians were confused. Perhaps we have not made ourselves clear, the Prime Communicator told the human delegation. This is not a negotiation between equals. While we respect your species' potential, you are centuries behind us. For your safety and the stability of this sector, we must insist on proper oversight. To emphasize their point, the Viridian vessel activated previously hidden features. Weapon ports opened along its hull, smaller craft deployed in formation around it. We mean no threat, the Prime Communicator continued. But we must demonstrate the reality of our positions. Please reconsider our generous offer. The UNS Harmony was allowed to depart with the human delegation intact, but was given just 72 hours to deliver Earth's final answer. As the Harmony returned, Commander Powell received new orders. The hidden human fleet was to emerge from concealment and take up defensive positions around Earth, not as a direct provocation, but as a clear statement. They think we're defenseless, Admiral Carter told the assembled fleet commanders. They need to understand that while we welcome peaceful exchange, we will not be intimidated. The Harmony's bridge was silent as Ambassador Reyes finished delivering Earth's message to the Viridians. On the main screen, Coordinator Zenith's crystalline body remained completely still, the usual pulsing lights dim. To summarize, the ambassador concluded firmly, Earth appreciates the Viridian Collective's offer but declines protected status. We remain open to equal partnership, cultural exchange, and mutually beneficial trade. We hope for peaceful relations, but will not surrender our independence." For what felt like minutes, there was no response. Diane stood behind the ambassador, hand resting near her weapon, watching for any sign of aggression from the alien vessels surrounding the Harmony. Finally, Zenith spoke. "We will convey your decision to the collective leadership. Please maintain your current position until we return." The communication ended abruptly. The screen went dark. "What now?" Captain Martinez asked, tension evident in his voice. "Now we wait," Ambassador Reyes replied, "and prepare for their response." Diane moved to the tactical station. All security teams on alert. Shield generators at full capacity. The Harmony wasn't built for combat, but it had some defensive capabilities, just not enough to withstand a serious attack from the Viridian vessels. 20 minutes passed in tense silence. Then one of the bridge officers called out, "Captain, the smaller Viridian ships are moving." Everyone watched as the alien vessels that had been surrounding the Harmony began to pull back toward the mothership. "Are they giving us room to leave?" Dr. Miller wondered. "Or positioning for attack?" Before anyone could answer, Admiral Carter's voice came through Diane's secure communicator. "Commander Powell, the Earth fleet is moving into position as planned. Estimated deployment time 15 minutes. "Understood," Diane replied quietly. The Viridians appeared to be regrouping, not attacking yet. Then something unexpected happened. The massive Viridian mothership began to change. The weapon ports that had opened earlier were closing. The smaller vessels were returning to their docking bays. It looked as if the aliens were standing down. "Incoming transmission from the Viridian ship," announced the communications officer. Zenith appeared on screen again, but this time the crystal clusters on its upper section were pulsing with new colors, soft greens and blues that they hadn't seen before. "Ambassador Reyes," the alien began, its tone noticeably different. "The collective leadership has reviewed your response. We would like to request a new meeting, this time with your military representatives as well." Ambassador Reyes glanced at Diane, then back at the screen. "May I ask why?" "We have detected significant energy signatures throughout your solar system," Zenith replied. "Signatures that were not present when we arrived." The bridge crew exchanged worried looks. The hidden Earth fleet had been discovered. "We wish to speak with those who command these vessels," Zenith continued. "It appears we have misunderstood certain aspects of your civilization. After a brief consultation with Earth leadership via quantum communicator, a new meeting was arranged. This time Admiral Carter himself would join via holographic projection. Captain Howard of the Constitution would represent the fleet commanders in person. 2 hours later, the meeting began in the same chamber aboard the Viridian ship. Diane noticed that the 3 Viridians seemed different somehow. Their movements, more cautious, their light patterns more subdued. "We welcome Earth's military representatives," Zenith began formally. "We have observed your fleet deployment with great interest." Admiral Carter's hologram nodded. "The Earth Defense Force stands ready to protect our planet and our independence." "How long have you maintained these vessels?" asked Lumina, the science observer. "Some are newer than others," Captain Howard replied carefully. "We've been developing space combat capabilities for several decades." The 3 Viridians exchanged rapid light patterns. Then Zenith moved forward slightly. "We owe you an explanation," it said, "and perhaps an apology." The humans exchanged surprised glances. "The Viridian Collective has a standard protocol for contact with developing civilizations," Zenith continued. "We classify species based on their technological development stage. Those who have achieved space travel but limited military capability are offered protected status. This arrangement has worked well for many species." "And those with greater military capability?" Admiral Carter asked. "Are approached differently," Prism answered. "As potential allies rather than protectorates." Diane understood suddenly. "You thought we were defenseless." "Not defenseless," Zenith corrected. "But we believed your space military technology was in its infancy. Your publicly visible vessels and satellites suggested a civilization that had mastered basic space travel, but little else. You couldn't detect our stealth technology, Captain Howard said with a hint of pride. Correct, Lumina acknowledged. Your ability to conceal your fleet from our sensors is unexpected for your development stage. Ambassador Reyes leaned forward. So now that you know we can defend ourselves, you're changing your approach. The collective has a policy of not engaging militarily capable species in protective relationships, Zenith explained. It is inefficient. Diane nearly laughed at the diplomatic understatement. What the alien really meant was that the Viridians avoided conflict with species that could actually fight back. In light of this new understanding, Zenith continued, we wish to renegotiate on terms of mutual respect and non-interference. For the next several hours, the meeting took on a completely different tone. The Viridians were no longer condescending or threatening. Instead, they were respectful, even curious about Earth's military development. Your stealth technology is particularly impressive, Lumina told Captain Howard. Most species develop offensive capabilities before concealment techniques. We've learned from our own history, Howard replied. Sometimes it's better to remain unseen until necessary. By the end of the meeting, a new agreement was outlined. The Viridians would trade technology as equals. They would share star charts, showing safe paths through nearby systems. They would warn of genuine threats in the galaxy, but they would make no claims of authority over Earth or human expansion. As the humans prepared to leave, Zenith approached Diane privately. Commander, Powell, the alien said, its crystal clusters pulsing softly. May I ask you something? Of course, she replied, still wary. Your species deliberately concealed your military capabilities from us. Even knowing we were observing you for decades, you maintained this deception. Why? Diane considered her answer carefully. Throughout human history, we've learned that revealing all your strengths can be dangerous. It's better to be underestimated than overestimated. The crystal clusters flashed in what Diane had come to recognize as the Viridian equivalent of thoughtful consideration. A philosophy the collective will need to consider more carefully in future first contacts, Zenith said finally. Your species is young, but demonstrates remarkable strategic thinking. As the human delegation returned to the Harmony, Earth's hidden fleet began to emerge from concealment. Ships from America, China, Russia, Europe, and other nations moved into formation. Over 50 advanced warships of various classes, armed with nuclear weapons, railguns, laser arrays, and the latest in stealth technology. The sight was meant to send a clear message. Earth would not be intimidated or controlled. 3. Days later, the Viridian mothership prepared to depart. Their final message was broadcast worldwide. People of Earth, we leave you as friends and potential allies. The galaxy contains many wonders and many dangers. We look forward to seeing how your unique perspective will shape the future of this sector. Until we meet again. As Commander Powell watched the massive ship create another ripple in space and disappear, she felt both relief and pride. Earth's first contact wasn't defined by who had the most advanced ships, but by who understood that true diplomacy always requires a position of strength. 6 months later, now Captain Powell sat on her family's porch in Lakeside, Nebraska, looking up at the stars. Somewhere out there, the Viridians were likely telling others about the curious humans, a species that built warships before even reaching their nearest neighboring worlds. We impressed them after all, she whispered to the night sky. Just not in the way anyone expected.